Peace and bright blessings, guys. It's your Queen of Spades coming at you today. I hope all my royals are well. I'm doing well myself. And today I've decided to also do an overview on um, Queen Elizabeth II's Uncle David. Okay. Um, so I know that in his life growing up, like he was active in the British, military and things of that nature. Um, he had a lot of different things going on. I mean, personality wise, like, you know, he was known as a very bright personality. Um, Now, he did have ideals, which a lot of them in that family in all over the world, really. A lot of people have that same notion or ideal that, their people or Caucasian white people are more superior to any other um, ethnicity or, group of, you know, race of other people. Um, so he had these ideas too. And I saw like he had made these different comments over the course of his life. However, it's almost like ingrained in a lot of them. To me, it's more surprising when you meet or find out about a royal that didn't think like this. um, but yeah, so uh, he was destined to basically be king. Queen Elizabeth's uncle. He was destined to be king as the older brother between him and his younger brother, who is Queen Elizabeth's father. As the older brother, he was destined to be king. So at some point, people, like, it didn't take long for people to recognize, okay, he's got a very colorful personality, very electric personality. A lot of people fell in love with, like, especially men, fell in love with like his style of dress and the fact that he was considered like very stylish in the way that he dressed, and pretty soon the way that he dressed became kind of like ideal for many men in that day and time to kind of copy, and everybody wanted to look like, you know, um, Queen Elizabeth's Uncle David, which that's what he was affectionately called by, Queen Elizabeth and lots of people that knew him personally. But as king, he was going to go by George the fifth or the sixth, I believe, or the seventh. Don't quote me. Um, but yeah, so he was destined to become king. He was the older brother, and at some point, he had lots of different women he was seeing. At some point, he met his future wife to be in the U.S. Somewhere, and he fell in love with her. They fell in love with each other. And because she had been divorced already and was going through her second divorce, the royals did not really think that him being with her was a good match, and they didn't want them together. So they discouraged the relationship. But he's like, this is the love of my life. Like, we get married. I don't care what nobody say. Well, in their rules and regulations, the royals really look down. The British royals really look down on people who have been divorced. They feel like it's a scandalous type of situation and it doesn't sit right with God. And so, because they feel like the British royal bloodline is pure, and untouched, uncontaminated. Um, they they never really easily agree. In fact, they admonish it totally. Someone from the British royal family marrying a divorcee, they don't agree with any of that. So they discourage it, and basically they put it down, and that person has to make the choice between the crown and, the person that they love, that they want to be with. Um, and I mean, heavy is the head that holds the crown. Um, yeah, they had lots of rules and regulations that, lots of royals, British royals, ended up kind of like running into and not in agreement with, which I can't say I blame them too much at all, because I don't feel like, people that are divorced and um, remarry, want to remarry should be condemned like, oh, you're divorced, you should never find love again. Like, I don't agree with that notion. So, but that's their way of life, and that's how they do things. So when they told him, no, we don't agree with you and your girlfriend eventually getting married. She hadn't yet divorced her second husband yet, but was on the verge of finalizing her divorce with him. And Queen Elizabeth's uncle David was, well, his thinking was, okay, once the divorce is finalized, we're going to get married. And they were like, absolutely not. You're about to be king. There's plenty of women out there. Like, he had lots of attraction and attention from other women in the kingdom and outside of the kingdom. And they looked at her as this Americanized woman, in a negative sense, that was a divorcee, and they just from jump did not like her. They didn't care about her personality. They didn't want to get to know her. It just was like, you're divorced, and then an American woman at that. Mm-mm. Like, you're not right for our family. So um, he decided, um, um, Uncle David, Elizabeth's Uncle David, Queen Elizabeth's Uncle David, he decided basically, since you can't accept my choice for who I want to settle down with and marry, who I'm in love with, well, then I'm going to abdicate. So he basically, he had an abdication where he decided to leave the crown, leave the throne, um, for love. He decided to marry, um, goodness, and let me find out her name because I know it from the research I did, but I can't remember. But yeah, he decided to leave the throne, leave the kingdom. Okay, so he was Edward, hold on, Edward the Eighth, and yeah, that was his real name. His full name is Edward Albert Christian George Andrew Patrick David. Wow. Um, yeah, so yeah, he definitely, what is his wife's name? Yeah, where is it? Okay. Yeah, so his wife's name was Wallace Simpson. Yeah. Technically, because he was um the Duke of Windsor at some point, she would have been the Duchess of Windsor. But yeah, they didn't agree with their marriage at all. And they stripped him of his title. They stripped, well, they kept her from ever getting a title. Um, so yeah, but he married for love, and he left the crown. Um, his mother was like, she was very not accepting of his wife. She didn't like him because, in her opinion, like, she's the one who drove him to, with the ideas of leaving the crown and the throne, after his father had been king, for so long throughout their lives. Um, so she felt that his wife had brought dishonor to him and their family, and also the crown. She also had negative views towards him as well, because she's looking at him like, basically, you went AWOL on your duty. Like, you neglected your duty as the next king in line, to serve, the crown, to serve your country. So she looked at him like, some sort of a sellout. And she was very mean towards him. Like, she made comments, like in the crown, she made comments to him like, when Queen Elizabeth's father died and all the family was gathering around, and he finally showed up, to check on her and see how she was doing. She made the comment like, it's bad enough, my favorite son is dead. Now, here you are in my presence. Like you ain't, like, she really had nothing but negativity, um, for this man, because he decided to live his own life, and also marry a woman who was a divorcee, which was very much, it still is, I believe, yeah, very much frowned upon. And for most royals, the rules, actually for all royals, the rules is, if you divorce, well, then you shouldn't and can't remarry until after that ex-spouse dies. So, you know, if you happen to die before them, then it just won't ever happen, I guess. But the thing is, you can't remarry until your ex-spouse dies. And, in America, it's totally different. People divorce and remarry all the time. Um, in fact, like, I saw a marriage, the marriage license paperwork, um, when I married my now husband. This would be my second marriage. I saw the slots on the paper, and it allowed up to, like, what was it, like 5 or 10 marriages. And I was like, now, I'm all for people doing it till you get it right. But if I ever was presented with the fifth or 10th time of marriage, I just wouldn't do it. At that point, I'm just not gonna do it. And my husband was like, "Yeah, me neither. Like, who wants to keep going through that over and over again? Like, I'm just not going to, like, I would just settle for the fact that ain't nobody out here meant for me at that point." But America's customs and rules versus Britain's is totally different. So at some point, the crown and the British royal family also frowned upon his interaction with his wife. As soon as she divorced her second husband, they got married, and she had an association with Hitler, and he had an association with Hitler too. So in the show The Crown, Queen Elizabeth was like, they had showed her paperwork where he was kind of like in cahoots with Hitler, like, had meetings with him and stuff like that at one point. And she had addressed him about it. And she was like, you brought dishonor. Like, how could you be associated with someone like that? And he's like, you got to understand, like, the whole British crown, like, all of us were friends with, Hitler at one point. We were all friends, and then at some point, they stopped being friends with him, and I continued to be his friend. You know, um, so when you understand it like that, like something changed, something over time changed, and everybody else abandoned ship. He stayed on ship and was like, this my friend to the end, and they just was like, yeah, it's not a good look for us. We left that alone, so you should leave that alone too. And he didn't have the same sentiments. Um, yeah, so as time went on, like there were different events where Queen Elizabeth was honored at, and different events where even Charles was honored during these different ceremonies. And they told him, like the heads of the parliament and stuff, they told him, like, you can come, but your wife can't. So he was like, excuse me? Like, how you gonna tell me like I can come to a family event but my wife can't? Like what sense does that make? She's my wife. They were like, well, sorry, she can't come. Like she's been excluded from being able to, come to any of these royal events or anything with, the royal family at all. Nobody wants her around. So he was like, okay, well then I'm gonna have to make the call, the judgment call to not attend either. And so yeah, so he made the judgment call on not to attend either. And at some point, Queen Elizabeth's sister Margaret, who I love, the women that played her and her character, that was basically displayed. Be safe. I'm not leaving yet. Oh, hold on. Yo, I apologize. These children, particularly one son who just loves coming in and out of the house, especially when he sees I'm recording. Um, it's annoying. Okay. So, yeah, I came to love her sister Margaret's character that was being displayed in The Crown by both actresses. They did a really good job, like showing her strong-willed personality. Um, I loved um, Margaret, her characterization. Very strong personality, a lot like her Uncle David. At some point, she found love, and because the man that she wanted to marry was a divorcee, even though his wife divorced him, um, they said she still couldn't marry him because he was still technically a divorcee, and she had never been married or divorced before. So eventually they decided not to go through with the marriage because she would have to, her title would be removed. She would be relieved of her royal duties, you know, and they decided it would be too much catastrophe, to her life for her to make this move or decision. Um, so her and the man that she was seeing at the time decided to call it quits. And at some point in the future, beyond that, she had remarried someone else. I mean, she married someone else, and um, at some point they divorced. But I don't think she ever married again. She just was like, she probably had lovers and people, that she continued to see like on the side, but I don't think she ever had an interest in getting married again. But I haven't finished watching The Crown, so I don't know yet, totally and completely. Um, but yeah, so they were a lot of like they were like the rebels of the family. Um, at some point in his older age, and I mean, he had moved to the States with his wife, they were enjoying their lives and entertaining parties and things of that nature. And at some point, as he got older, he's like, I'm bored. Like, I need something to do. Like, I can't just sit around, and do nothing for the rest of my life. Like, I need a job, I need something to do. So, at some point, he went back to the palace, and he was trying to get like jobs as an ambassador, as, an ambassador of France, different jobs like that that were open and available, and that would have been perfect for him. But because he had decided to go against the crown and live his life, they basically were like, no, we don't want you back, and you're not welcomed here. We family and all, but you're not welcome back here. So he was hurt by that. He went on back home, and at some point he started to Prince Charles started to form a relationship with him at some point, and he found that there were a lot of similarities between him and his uncle David, and he grew really close to him. Um, he didn't agree with Prince Charles didn't agree with the fact that his uncle David, found love and was persecuted for finding love, and basically, denied, access to his family and other royal events and things like that, just because of who he married, and was basically like exiled in a sense from, his country, his family. And they kind of looked at him like, I mean, you chose her over us. Like, you should feel some type of way about you, not us. But I can see both sides of the coin. It's just crazy. Um, but yeah, so um Prince Charles would often like write him letters, like talking about his relationship and his love for uh Camilla, and different things like that, just to like seek his advice and his input, on similar things that he was going through in his life, just like his uncle. And yeah, so um, Uncle David was like a pretty cool character overall. The fact that he gave it all up, like, to stand on his position of love. He's like, I love this woman. We're madly in love with each other, and we will be married, whether anybody agrees with it or not. And so you can't help but have like a level of respect for that. Um, but yeah, at some point in his dying days, as he got older, he tried to seek out making peace with his family, if you will. Um, he wanted to sort things out, you know, with especially Queen Elizabeth, because she felt like if you never gave up your throne, if you never gave up the crown, like, then my father wouldn't have had to take the position. And then as a result of him dying, I wouldn't have had to take this position. I just wanted a normal life. And then you made your decision and your choice, and it just basically ended up trickling down to me. And he was like apologetic, like, I'm sorry, you're right. Like, I did hurt you, and I apologize for that. And she's like, yeah, with it came a lot of stress, but with it came a lot of good things too. The experience of, you know, um, me being crowned as queen. It came with some great things too. So I'm not totally, upset about the decision you made. And he was like, I just want your forgiveness. Like, if you could forgive me, for all the pain that I caused to you, then that would be very helpful, and then at least I could, move on in peace. And, you can move on in peace too. And she was like, I totally forgive you. I don't blame you. And at that point, like, he started like dozing off into a deep sleep. And not too long after, because she saw he was asleep, so she just cut off the conversation, and kind of, went and kissed him and then left out. And not too long after she left, he had died, and in his bed, and his wife was by his side. She was crying, couldn't believe that he was finally gone, and she basically remained, single for the rest of, um, for the remainder of her life. Um, so yeah, um, she continued to be shunned by his family and not really welcomed or accepted, um, at events and stuff. And she just kind of stayed to herself and died, alone. Um, and I'd like to think at some point, she was able to find her husband in the spirit realm, and that they're together. Um, so yeah, it was a really touching story. His life story. Um, so yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Um, Very interesting storyline, and I encourage you guys to definitely watch The Crown because it's given me like lots of ins and outs and details on things that I didn't really know about beforehand at all. So I hope you all enjoyed that overview on Queen Elizabeth's Uncle David and his wife, Willis. I done forgot his wife's name again. Um, his wife's name is Willis. No, Wallace. My bad, y'all. What you talking about, Willis? No, her name was Wallace Simpson. So yeah, if you guys have any comments, definitely comment down below. Definitely like, subscribe, and even follow me on Instagram and Facebook as well. Um, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace and bright blessings.